Stephanie Saunders with Foreclosure Freedom Network. Keep in mind that each of my videos can be seen on my website with the full transcript if you want to study it better. My website is www.foreclosurefreedomnetwork.com. I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about who your lender is. Many people don't realize the complexity of this topic and simply think their lender is the person who signed them up for the loan to begin with, or who currently sends them monthly mortgage statements that they pay each month. For the most part, the true underlying investor or lender is a well-camouflaged identity to the average Joe. Nowhere on the original loan docs or process is it made extremely clear what will become of their loan the day after they sign the loan documents. There are reasons the true loan investor is so opaque. One, loan servicers get paid to contain the confusion of day-to-day processing of loan payments, foreclosures for defaulting loans, and releases when the loan is paid in full. One would think because of this they have full authority, but in the final analysis, where there's an upside-down property and the loan modification or the payoff on the property is going to be short of the entire debt, the underlying debt investor is going to want a say-so. This underlying investor may be a trustee for a rather large pool of loans and not an individual or a lending institution at all. It may be an enormous pool of investors and an enormous pool of loans. It could be an awful lot of individuals that own securities in a pool of loans. So if these loans are just acting as collateral for securities, Joe Q. Public might need to be a college professor or an undergraduate doing a dissertation to figure out who exactly owns his note. Interestingly, because of this fact, it's an interesting subject if somebody wants to stop a foreclosure in its tracks for a month or two or three or four. Just request that the lender produce the note for the property. This is such a difficult scenario that several foreclosures have been lost because of this. Number two, with the advent of in the 1990s of MERS, or mortgage electronic registration systems, they go for they substitute themselves as the signatory or as the nominee on behalf of the lender. This is only for administrative purposes. It's only for documentation purposes, and it obscures basically the chain of lenders, but it does tend to confuse the issue, not only on who the lender is, but also on who the loan servicer even is or was during a certain period of time. It becomes very, very difficult to have that history. Although the history is available, usually it's a relatively simple process to get the identity of your current lender. But again, it's not any public record, and it cannot be achieved in that way. So there's other complexities because investors don't know the first thing about how to service a loan, debt-to-income ratios, things like that. So when the investor starts reading these loan files that come to them and trying to approve a short sale or a loan modification, they can be way off in their estimation and their values and what they're really looking for. They could be absolutely too zealous for a profit over and above anything that's rational or reasonable. And frankly, it's supposed to pass in the state of California and other areas a net present value test, and that should test positive for a loan modification. And if it does, then they're supposed to accept it gracefully, but nobody's holding a gun to their head, and they certainly don't have to. But that's why they usually hire loan servicers, because they have so much extra work to do in order to really understand and calculate most of the processes of loan servicing. And certainly this one is one of the more complex ones. So loan servicers have a situation of the blind leading the blind quite often. And when this happens, you find that negotiators or mitigators who can only rotely tell you that it's denied because they haven't actually been doing this for anything more than a few months, and they don't know really much about loan servicing other than the little database that somebody told them to enter data into, and then at the very end of all of that, it's going to come out with a flag that says this one can roll or this one has to rock. So you have these blind leading the blind, and it gets kind of it becomes a clueless situation. So one can actually see that if you disclose the identity of all the underlying investors, it could really confuse the situation and disorient people. But when seeking a loan modification or short sale, it could be imperative to know this, know who is the underlying investor, to get a better prediction of the outcome, to get a realistic workout and know what you're likely to get. It can be mandated to get your lender, your loan servicer portion of the lender partnership, to disclose to you who the underlying investor is. All you really have to do is you have to send in a faxed demand for this information. And generally, I would recommend that you give them a 10-day notice or a 2-week notice to give you this information back. And another method that I always have somebody do is send it out certified mail also to the lender, to whoever that person is dealing with or getting notices from on their loan statements, or in whatever stage they're in. They may already be in the loss mitigation department, so whoever they're dealing with in loss mitigation then. But just whoever that normal person is, just simply demand to know the identity of the underlying investor on the loan. And that can sometimes really help to clear things up. If you end up having a loan that, is with an investor who is based in the UK, or an investor who's based in Germany or China, it can help to explain that obviously this is probably a securitized pool of mortgages, and this investor trustee is somebody who who basically sold it to all of their guys in their country, or at their whoever they have connections with. So they're the ones that have some say so in what their investors are going to get back. So when you have a scenario where you have somebody from outside of the United States, it is more difficult to get them to agree with all of the nice things that Americans actually, more or less, particularly people who have Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac as investors, uh, tend to expect with the home affordable modification program that exists today. So, uh, basically, you send this fax and then into the customer service or whoever, you send the certified request in, and then within a couple of weeks, you should expect that underlying investor name back. It also ba- basically let's now go over number 6. There's no guarantee with any of this that the loan servicer is actually going to disclose to you who the underlying investor is. They may not really know, so they'll probably do the best they can. But quite often we'll get back things like Deutsche Bank, but we have no idea of a contact number. Well, which just sort of doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. But in California, there's Civil Code 2923.6, and that defines, I think, for both California and for the rest of the country, what should be considered fair in terms of a workout. No matter who the servicer is acting for, as far as an investor or a lender, it's in the best interest to all parties of the loan to to anticipate a recovery under the loan modification or workout plan if that exceeds that as far as net present value, the net present value of that of foreclosure, then it would test positive then for doing the loan modification. And so the way the civil code is worded, that the loan servicer is off the hook for any liability to make that decision on the part of the investor for that investor. So loan servicers out there, please realize that you do have this power in the state of California to make these decisions for the investors. So basically, if lenders continue to operate diligently and perhaps even more speedily uh, on getting things modified according to what is fair in terms of better than the net present value of the foreclosure, then hopefully we will have a better situation in the very near future. Now, in addition to that, we are coming up in the later portion of this year with some principal reductions, and hopefully that news will be very good news as well. Right now, we still have some lender protests. Hopefully, the lenders won't protest this latest one like they protested every single one before this, and actively prevent those from happening. Hopefully these lenders will actually start opening up their doors to solutions that will allow for principal reduction. This latest deal, by the way, on principal reduction will allow lenders to receive anywhere from 10 cents on the dollar to 26 cents on the dollar, based on whether or not that dollar is, how far away from just based on certain circumstances. But anyway, hopefully they will progress, and hopefully we will be able to resolve a lot more of these shortfalls very rapidly. We're already into the middle of 2010, and a lot of these programs are set to end in 2012, and really, frankly, we haven't even begun on a lot of these yet. So thank you. That's all I'll be doing for now. Again, my name is Connie Saunders. The number you can reach us at is 877-333-4506. And you can go to our website and get a transcript of this, and also see any other videos that I've done on the website and the blog. And you can reach that by www.foreclosurefreedomnetwork.com. Thank you, and have a great day.